and Happy New Year. Happy 2026. We're so excited to have you joining us tonight. I am seeing a couple people roll in. So while we're just waiting for everybody to join here, we'll go ahead and do some introductions and some housekeeping and introduce vision boarding tonight. So again, welcome to the New Year's series with the CSU Alumni Association. We're kicking off this series with Alexandra down here. She is an alum of CSU and a vision board extraordinaire. So very excited to welcome her today and get things started. I want to do a quick plug as well. We are doing this New Year's series every Tuesday in January, as well as a random Thursday that we're doing with a book club alumni author. So keep those dates on your radar. We are going to be sending them out to you after the program with exact registration links and everything for you. But also another shout out to Canvas Credit Union for sponsoring all of this and for helping get our alums situated and starting our new year off really strong. My name is Sophie. I will be actively participating with you all today, just not always on screen. So if you need anything, just let me know. I'm an assistant director with the Alumni Association, and I have the privilege of working on a lot of these virtual programs within our career and professional and personal development. So I'm excited to learn with you all tonight. Before we hand it off to Alexandra, I do want to go over some quick housekeeping. So we are running this event via YouTube, and we'd love for you to ask questions or comment on the material if you need to as we go. If you do have a question or a comment, go ahead and use the comment section. It should be on this lower half of your screen here. It's similar to a chat function on other platforms, just YouTube calls it comments. You do not need a Google or a YouTube account, but for some reason, if you're having issues posting your comment or anything and you want to make sure that it gets addressed, I'm putting my email in the comments right here, and you should be able to see it. Go ahead, as well as on the bottom of the screen is my email throughout the whole program. But if you have any questions, go ahead and email them to me, and I'll make sure that Alexandra sees them throughout the program. Last but certainly not least, I would like to thank our CSU Alumni Association members who are joining today. We have quite a few of you online, which is exciting, and your support through membership makes and allows connective programs like this possible. So thank you again for your support. Okay, well, enough from me. I'm officially going to hand things off to Alexandra to get started, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's vision boards later on.
Awesome. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you to each of you who is joining tonight. And then just one more thanks to the CSU Alumni Association members in the room. I know I am personally a member and get a lot of benefit out of it, but it also lets us do fun things like this. So thanks to the CSU Alumni Association. If you are here for vision boarding, you are in the right place. If you're not here for vision boarding, I hope you stick around because it's a fun practice, a great way to kick off the new year. I know we're a couple days into 2026 now. Many of us are in our second day back at work. I hope that's gone smoothly. So tonight should be fun. We're going to take some time just to talk about vision boards, to reflect, do all of those type of things. For those of you who like an agenda, I just want to provide this one quickly. We're going to start by some introductions. I'll talk a little bit about myself. I would love to hear a little bit about you all who are joining if you'll use the comment and chat functions. We'll talk about what a vision board is. It's a ton of things. It's a creative practice. It's really fun. But for those of you who might be making your very first vision board ever, first, yay, and thank you so much for trusting us with this process. But also it's nice to kind of have an understanding of what you're doing and why you're here. We're going to talk a little bit about the science behind vision boards. I know some of you are like, I'm ready to craft, just let me go. So if you are somebody that wants to be crafting and cutting and gluing while we talk about this, please feel free to do so. But if you're someone that's like, I want to know why I'm here, why I'm giving an hour of my time, this section will be for you. We're going to talk a little bit about different types of vision boards we can make tonight. So in your confirmation email, you probably saw ideas to grab some of the paper stuff like tape, markers, magazines, or virtual stuff, things like Pinterest, Canva accounts, just different types of vision boards that we can make. We'll pause, we'll do a quick supply run, couple of reflection questions, And then we will jump into crafting our board. An hour is quick to make a vision board. So don't feel like it has to be done tonight. Don't feel like it has to be perfect. But my hope is that we get you started, that we get you to a place where you feel secure, that you finish it on your own after tonight's workshop. And then we will go ahead and wrap up and send you into the new year feeling prepared and reflective and all of that. If there are any questions about tonight's plan, feel free to put those in the chat. Otherwise, just a quick introduction of who I am and why I am here. My name is Alexandra Schweiger. I am a 2017 CSU grad. I graduated from the College of Liberal Arts with a dual degree in international studies and political science, and then minors in business and Spanish. So I'm a huge CSU fan. I put CSU in my introduction because I bleed green and gold. I also put a marker pen, whatever, in my introduction. I love arts and crafts. I was raised by an art teacher. I've been really fortunate to have access to the arts growing up. So things like this really excite me. They energize me. I'm really excited to get to share it with you tonight. I also put a sun in my introduction. I love the outdoors. If it were up to me, I'd be outdoors 24/7, rain, wind, snow, whatever it might be. That's where I find my energy. So while I have an indoor desk job, I recharge outdoors. I also love to travel. Currently, my goal is to visit all 50 states. I'm at around half of them. And then last but not least, I have a wonderful sheepdog. She really is kind of my baby. I'm at a stage in life where I don't yet have kids. So I'm constantly talking about my pet and bragging about her and really just babying her. That's a little bit about who I am. I want you to take 2 minutes to really think about who you are. Think about 4 or 5 things that energize you. What do you like to do? You might notice that in my introduction, I didn't say what I do for work or where I live or who I am with other people, but the things that energize you. If you are comfortable, put some of those in the chat. I'd also love to know where folks are tuning in from tonight. I am in Michigan. But yeah, take about 1.5 minutes left. And just write down a couple of things. If you're doing this workshop in a group or with your partner, reintroduce yourselves to one another. Think about things folks in your group might not know. If you're doing it by yourself, that's fantastic. Write it down on a piece of paper to reflect on later. I will give another minute or so because I know 5 is a lot. This can often be, what do you like to do? Things like cooking, things like, I had someone say racing. Sophie says the outdoors, her dog, moving her body through exercise and hiking. I love the moving your body one. Awesome. About 30 more seconds. Then we'll move on. AJ, tuning in from Broomfield. I love Broomfield. Video games, movies, dogs, writing, and philosophy. Those are awesome, AJ. Thanks so much for sharing. It's so fun to see what everybody's energized by. Perfect. Keep writing them down if you haven't made it through everything yet. If you have, we're going to talk just a little bit about what a vision board is. So it's a mix and match collage of images, words, symbols, really anything that has meaning to you. So often these can come from magazines. If you're doing it digitally, it might be something you search. AJ said he likes video games. He might search a picture of his favorite video game. It's a way for you to visualize your goals. Sometimes our dreams, I might say, I want to drink more water. And so I might put a glass of water on my vision board. It's really a visual game plan. You can write out your goals one by one, but a vision board is a way to see them in a different form. It can be playful, it can be self-reflective. It can change. The goals you make tonight might change in February, and that's okay. What a vision board is not, which is just as important, is like a strict checklist. It's not a way to put a ton of pressure on yourself. It's not a promise that everything you put on your board is going to happen exactly how you picture it. It's also not a tool to like guilt yourself into doing more or to fix something about yourself. Vision boards should be fun and playful, and while it can be a good little nudge, it shouldn't be a ton of pressure. So I want to put that caveat out there because I know often when I think about goals, I'm like, I want the big goals. I want the moonshot goals. I want it all. And while that is a really good goal to have, we also don't want too much pressure on ourselves. So a little bit about the science behind vision boards. This is the why we make vision boards. I'm a science nerd, so I could talk about this all night, and it could be a whole own hour. But for those of you that are like, why am I here? Why am I giving an hour? One of the big scientific pieces behind a vision board is something that we call the reticular activating system. So the reticular activating system is a filter in your brainstem that decides what information gets your attention. When you regularly see images connected to your goals, like on a vision board, or images, that motivate you, your reticular activating system treats them as important and becomes more attuned to those opportunities or those people or those ideas or whatever it might be. So if I say I have a goal to drink more water, but I never think about it again, likelihood is I go to work, I work 8 hours, I don't think to drink the water. I go to the gym, I might do the workout, I might drink a little afterwards. But my brain is not filtering it as important. If every morning I wake up, I look at my vision board, I see the big water glass right in the middle, it primes my brain to focus on that throughout the day. So I might go sit at my desk and think, oh, I need to drink a glass of water. I might get up to make my lunch and think, oh, I need to drink a glass of water. There's also a lot of science around mental imagery and visualization research. So studies show that imagining an outcome activates similar neural pathways as actually performing the action. So a great example of this is often seen in sports. Many coaches will have their athletes visualize a play or a win before they actually go on the field or the track or whatever they're playing in. The reason behind this is that it's basically a visual version of guided imagery. It reinforces memories, but it also reinforces emotions and goal-related neural patterns. So when we can imagine something we want, it helps reinforce getting us there. And then finally, there's a good amount of data behind emotional encoding, which basically means that the brain remembers things better when emotions are attached. So things that we can put on our vision board tonight that excite us or energize us, the brain will remember better as we go to work on those goals throughout the year. A little bit more about the how. So I talked about this a moment ago, but basically how this works is we're priming our brain to align with what we want in life, right? So repeatedly seeing images aligned with our priorities subtly shapes our thoughts, our decisions, our habits. A vision board acts as a daily prime for what you're saying you want your future self to do. Your future self, there's also a lot of research that shows when we feel more connected to our future self, we make decisions that then benefit that future self. So I might, say, I really want to have a whole bottle of wine tonight. But if I feel connected to my workout tomorrow, my brain will reinforce that might not be a decision that is in my best interest tonight if I really care about the goal of getting a workout in tomorrow. And then finally, there's just a lot of science around positive psychology. So showing that science that says that visual representations of goals can actually boost optimism, resilience, and intrinsic motivation. Something like having a really bad day at work where you're feeling low and you're feeling like you don't do enough. When you come home and you see your goals and you see how much you've already checked off, it can reignite some of that motivation. So that's a little bit about why vision boards are important and why we should all do them tonight. Now to the fun stuff. We're going to get crafting. Thanks for those of you who have hung in through a little bit of the science. I know oftentimes creative brains are ready to move and ready to go. We're going to talk about different types of vision boards that you can make. So this is a step for you to start thinking about what type is right for you. The first one that we could look at is a paper or an art board. So I actually can hold up. Let's see if this works with the background. This is something that's like physical, tactile. It's on paper. You can see from mine that I did theme it all pink. This is often, a very creative process. You're cutting, you're gluing, you're arranging. It really engages your full body. People who choose to go more tactile on paper often choose it because it slows us down. It helps us disconnect. You can tune out distractions. If this is something you want to do, you might even mute me for a little bit and turn on your favorite playlist. Set the mood lighting, grab your tea, turn your phone on do not disturb. Do it after you put the kiddos to bed. This can be a really good form of art for people who really like to be crafty, who have lots of feelings, people who are craving a screen break, or people who want a form of art to display in your physical space. So for me, I know I often hang up my vision board over my desk, and I like it because it's like a new piece of art for the year. On the flip side, we could also look at a digital board, which also has a lot of perks. Digital boards are often a little bit cleaner. Software tends to make it easier to cut things perfectly straight and put it in, perfectly organized little boxes. They also tend to be a little bit more mobile laptop friendly. So if you're like, I want my visions as my phone screen, or I want my visions on my laptop, a digital board might be a better option for you. Digital also means you don't need supplies and you have a little bit more access, right? Like if one of your goals is to go to the beach, if you don't have a magazine that has the beach in it, you can type in beach pictures in light blue, beach pictures in Florida, beach pictures done by local artists. Really, you get a little bit more access in what you put on your board. This can be really good for people who like visual planners, people who care a little bit more about the aesthetic, people who don't want clutter in their workspace. For those of you thinking about doing a digital board, there are a lot of ways you can do it. And thanks for the question, AJ. Folks will often create these on Pinterest. They'll use Google Slides or PowerPoint, depending on what type of software you've used in the past. I used Canva for the example that I'm going to use tonight. Canva is wonderful, but often has a little bit of extra charges to it depending on what you want and images and whatnot, but they have a great free version. My recommendation if you're going for a digital board is to use a software you've used before. So often that is PowerPoint, Pinterest, Google Slides. If you start with one and you decide you hate it, you can start over. You can also think about doing a vision board, every month of the year or a 5-year board. So think about your time frame. If you're somebody that might want to flip back and forth, you could do a visual board this year, a paper board next year. We can also look at hybrid boards, right? So maybe you do your whole board on paper, but you take a picture of it and that becomes your laptop background. Or maybe you do it all digitally and you print it out and you hang it above your desk and that becomes your new piece of art, right? I've seen folks do a digital board, but leave big chunks open and then go back in and hand draw some of their goals or handwrite some of their goals. Similarly, I've seen people write out words that encompass their goals and then print pictures and glue those to their boards. This can be nice if you want some editing, but also some creative pieces. It can be nice if you aren't really sure and you're here to experiment and this is your first board you've ever made. So I want to pause there. Ask yourself, which format makes me excited to start, right? Is there one, as I was talking through it, you were like, this is it, this is me, this is what I want to do? Which format feels the most you right now? I know I've had phases of life where I want everything written down. I journal every day. It's pencil and paper, everything on paper. And then I've had phases of life where I'm like, everything's on my laptop. If it's not in my Google Calendar, it doesn't exist. If I can't edit it daily, it doesn't exist. So right now in this moment, what feels the best for you? And then which format will help you stay connected to your goals over time? Do you need the permanency of having it on paper? You know, like you want it glued down, it's not going to change. You don't want to peel it up. Or do you want something that you might be able to edit in February or in March as you get a little bit more into the year? So think a little bit about what feels good. And then we're going to do a supply run. I'm going to pause for another 2 or so minutes for those of you who need to gather supplies. Please know that if it's going to take you more than 2 minutes to gather supplies, you can continue to gather as we move on to the next steps. You won't get too far behind. But if you are doing the paper physical board, if that's how you are starting, look at the supplies on the left side of your screen. So you'll want to grab things like scissors, tape, pens, markers, magazines, extra paper. As cheesy as it sounds, often things in your trash can work really well. So that credit card slip you might have thrown away, you know, might have a beautiful heart from Capital One you could cut out. Or the Arby's bag might make a really nice brown crumply paper background. So really anything that could be cut up and repurposed, you'll want to grab. On the flip side, if you're thinking you're going to start digital, think about what platforms and softwares you may already have familiarity with. You may already have a login for. So again, that could be things like PowerPoint, that could be things like Google Slides, Canva, Pinterest, Adobe Photoshop. If there's something you're already used to working with, that's what I would recommend starting with. Also, you know, make sure your laptop's ready. It's geared up. If you're tuned into this, I'm guessing you're watching on your laptop, but we're such a mobile friendly culture these days. Maybe you're not. Make sure your Wi-Fi is working. Think about websites where you might get inspiration, you know, is that Google Images? Unsplash is a website that I really like for images because it's artists who give permission to use all their images. So it's really high quality pictures that are free to use. And that's Unsplash, UNSPLASH.com. So like I said, I'm going to give another 2 minutes or so, and then we'll keep moving on. Grab whatever you need, start logging in, and we're going to get to the fun, crafty, and creative part of the workshop here shortly. If you do have questions, feel free to pop those in the chat or the comments. I'll try to address that in the next minute before we get too far ahead of ourselves. Awesome. Y'all are making it easy on me. There is no wrong way to do a vision board. So that is the beautiful part as we're grabbing supplies and thinking about what we want to do. You really can't mess it up. It's about you and it's meant to be imperfect, right? Like the whole reason we work on goals is because we are imperfect. Question, thank you to the person who asked how many pictures is too many pictures. That's really a personal preference. I say go with as many as excite you, but don't feel tedious. So for me, I often, like to have 10 or 11 goals, which often can mean 10 or 11, maybe 12 pictures. if I have 100 pictures I really like, but feel the need to associate a goal with every single one of those, I get a little burnt out. Like, I'm like, I don't want 100 goals to focus on this year. If you're someone that's like, that's exactly what I want 100 goals, because I know if, it's like throwing spaghetti at a wall. If I go for all 100 and hit 70 of them, it's great. Go for all 100 pictures. If you're someone that's like, I want 5 pictures to represent one goal, that's also great. Awesome. Thank you for the question. Perfect. Well, I'm going to throw some questions back your way now. There's kind of 2 ways that you can answer these. One, if you are somebody who's more of a planner, I would invite you to write these down, pen and paper, and then incorporate them into your board later on. If you're someone that's like, we're 25 minutes into this workshop and I'm ready to just craft, start laying down pictures on your board or copy pasting them if you're doing a digital board that reflect some of the answers to these questions. The reason that reflection is important when we're making a vision board is because when we can look back and see how much we've already accomplished, it can help really get our brain into a space where we're thinking about what's important for us in the year ahead. So for the first question, and I'll give you about a minute per question, I want you to think about, what am I most proud of from last year? What went well? What brought me energy? This doesn't have to be a huge accomplishment. This could be something like, I'm proud that I showed up every day and did my best. Setting up a dinner with friends brought me energy. I took my dog on more walks last year than any of the previous years. It doesn't have to be huge. It might be huge. It might be I got engaged, I bought a house, I got a new job, and that's fantastic too. But take about 30 more seconds. We'll have 5 reflection questions for those of you that like to know what's ahead. Awesome. If you're still thinking, that is perfectly fine. If you're ready to move on, I want you to answer, how do I want to feel this year? That might be things like energized, grounded, connected, supported. Could be things like calmer, less anxious, more rested. What feelings do I want my vision board to invoke? Accomplished is one I often hear. This question will help us think about, as we're looking at photos and thinking about words to put on our vision board. If I say I want this year to feel energized, as I look at photos, I can think, is this energizing to me? Do I like the way this goal feels? Take about 30 more seconds. Okay. What do I want to prioritize this year? So things like health, relationships, career, travel, creativity, finances. If you're here at this workshop, my guess is you've thought about this a little bit already. Could be going back and getting an education. Could be becoming a member of the CSU Alumni Association. Could be moving. Just things that are priorities. This doesn't have to be an exhaustive list. One of the things I find when I do vision boards is that the more I add, the more creative ideas come to mind. Awesome. We'll take about 10 more seconds. Okay. What habits or environments support you when you're at your best? So this could be, I love being in my bed. That is a very well-defined environment, but it also might be, I love when the light is dim. Like, I hate when my boss turns on the overhead lights in the office, or I do best when I have background music on. Thinking about the spaces that really help fuel us. We'll take another 10 or so seconds. And if you don't have all your answers perfectly thought out, that is okay. You can continue to adjust. And then finally, and possibly my most favorite one, what's one bold dream that feels slightly outside of my comfort zone? So a goal that might be just a little bit harder to reach. It could be things like, I want to buy a house. That feels big and I don't know if it's doable. It might be things like, I want to walk and hit my step goal every day. Like that feels doable, but realistically, I know there's the days I'm going to come home and be like, absolutely not. Let me scroll TikTok. So think about a goal that feels slightly audacious or a moonshot goal. Okay. Keep thinking about these. And then I also want you to pick a word for your year. So something that, it could be something that evokes emotion, something that helps us think about like, this is what I want my year to be. It could be a word like motivated. It could be a word like brave. My word on the board I held up was romanticize. Like I want a little more whimsy in my life. My word for this year is flexible. I want to be a little more flexible. Perfect. And we are going to jump into crafting our board now. So for those of you that are like, I don't need the structure, I want the pictures, go. Feel free to use some of the reflection questions that we just did to start cutting out and placing things on your board. For those of you that want a little bit more structure, I tend to like to follow kind of these 8 well-being buckets when I think about goals and things that I want on my board. So that is what I'm going to walk us through tonight. For each bucket, I'm going to just talk about things that I might put in there, using my personal life as an example. I also invite you all to post things in the chat, help each other out if there are things that I may have missed. I am by no means an expert on everyone's lives. But the goal is that we walk away with the start of a board, maybe the ending of a board that is full and feels well-rounded and helps support our well-being and our goals for the year ahead. So just a couple of small reminders before we get started. Think about the time frame of your vision board. I often recommend 1 year. For the example, I'm going to do a vision board for the full year. Oftentimes people are like, I want a 5-year or 10-year vision board. I've seen people do a vision board every single month and do so, one for January, one for February. If you're somebody who really wants that craftiness in your life, please feel free to do that. But as you're writing down your goals, think about the time frame. So if my time frame is 2026, I probably wouldn't put own a mansion on my vision board because I know that that's not going to happen this year. Remember that growth doesn't always have to be obvious. So your goals don't have to be huge. Your goals might simply be get up and do your best every day. Might be to get an extra 2 minutes of sunshine. Like it doesn't seem huge, but it adds up throughout the day. Your board can represent both who you are today and who you are becoming. So I know often there are pieces that I feel really torn of, like I want to be more organized, but I really like this creative side of me and I don't want to give that up. So think about how you incorporate that into your board. Also focus on what you want to feel. Let that kind of guide your board. So it doesn't just have to be goal, goal, goal. If you see a photo and you're like, this excites me and I'm not sure why, it's okay to put that on your board. It's okay to think about like, why does a photo of a puppy excite you? Do you need a puppy? Do you just need more time with dogs? Whatever it might be. And then you don't have to know all the answers. Your visions can evolve. What you create tonight is by no means permanent. It might just be a fun crafting process. You might recreate again next year. You might take off pieces, you might add to it. But hopefully there's just very little pressure involved. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Typically, I start by putting my time frame in my board. Like I said, for me, that is the year. If you're gonna do 5 years or 10 years, you can put that too. If you're like, I don't want my time frame on my board, perfectly fine as well. I also like to add my word for the year. This often loops around to all my goals. It helps me think about how I want to feel When I might be getting stuck on like, I know that I want something that promotes intellectual well-being, but I don't know exactly what it is. I can think, like what goals help me remain a little bit more flexible. From here, I typically pick a category. Any of these categories work. I typically pick what feels easiest. Like, where do I know I have goals that I really want to work on? The reason I pick the easiest category first is because oftentimes as our brains start working on creativity, we get progressively more creative. So for the purposes tonight, I went ahead and chose environmental goals to start working on. This is the fun part. This is where you start cutting, ripping out pictures, copy pasting if you're doing things digitally. So for some of my environmental goals, I'm moving in with my partner this year. So I'm really thinking about what it looks like to combine spaces. I put a house because I wanted the visual of us living together, but then I also put words on there. So work through combining spaces. I also put the words clean. That is a priority that I have. He doesn't always have. So one of my goals is to think about how we can keep things tidy without driving him nuts. I also put some personal pictures on there. So this is my dog that I mentioned at the beginning. She is the sheepdog. His dog is the little black dog. I really want to think about how we can make sure our dogs are comfortable together. So I made sure the dogs made it on there. And then I put some flowers because I like gardening. One of the environmental goals that I have is to start a garden. So if you are somebody who's following along, working on your environmental goals right now, think about like what spaces make you feel calm, energized, or inspired. What goals can you attach to bring to those spaces? We're going to stick with this category for about 2 minutes. I'm just going to talk about some of the reflection pieces that I have in this category. So keep laying things down, starting putting your vision board together, and then we'll move on to the next category. I think you can also think about, the opposite, like which environments drain you and why. Sometimes our vision board is to avoid those environments or to change those environments. So, like if the gym is really draining for you, maybe the environmental goal is to start working out outside or to change gyms. Often I think about like, how do I want my home, my workspace, my car, my partner's home to feel? What helps put me at ease, calms me down a little bit? What elements, so like light, color, plants, textures, help me feel grounded? I added some flowers because I know I like plants in my physical space, but what helps you feel grounded? How can you create order, flow, just comfort in your daily life? What routines or habits help your spaces feel supportive? So as you're looking through your photos, think about some of those questions. You can start to put them down. If you are doing a paperboard, I often recommend laying things down, but not gluing it quite yet unless you really, really like how it looks. If you're doing a digital board, it's a little bit less important because you can rearrange and adjust and do some editing as you need. But we'll take about 45 more seconds. And I apologize. This part is going to go a little fast, but I want us to at least get a start, get some things laid down. If there are questions or other ideas for environmental goals, please feel free to pop those in the chat. If you are somebody who wants to work on a box different than the one that I am talking through, feel free to mute for 2 minutes. I'll try to stick to around 2 minutes per box, and then unmute or rejoin us at the end. We're going to move on to intellectual goals. And so For me, I often like to jump around my vision boards because I feel like it lets me be more creative, a little more visual. It also lets me play with the space a little bit. I apologize for those of you who are like, I want to go in order. I do so much better in order. Again, invite you to mute or take the vision board as you want to take it. But when I think about some of my intellectual goals, I ask myself things like, what topics or skills am I curious about right now? So you can see I added some books to mine because I want to read more books. I also added some words. I want to get better at my Spanish. I didn't know how to capture that in an image, so I just wrote it. For those of you who are doing paper boards, if you can't find images, using words is great. I often recommend even, like play around with your hand lettering and your fonts and think about how you can write in different ways and make that a piece of the art. Another thing you can think about in this category is how do you want to challenge or stretch your thinking this year? So I put a big X over a phone. I want to limit my screen time. I left some blank space above the books because I want more projects. I just didn't know what the projects were. Like I said, nothing set in stone. So this might be space that I add to in February, or maybe it's even like in June, I pick up a pottery class and I go back in and add it. I think about, what kinds of learning energize me instead of drain me. What are hobbies that really fill my cup, not things where I'm like, oh, I'm just doing this to better myself. You can think about, what skills would you love to develop or strengthen? How do you want to engage your creativity or curiosity? Often I see people put ideas for like books, podcasts, conversations they want to listen to. So even if you're like, I really want to read this book series, you might go cut out a picture of that book, or you might put the author's name on your vision board. Think about what helps you feel confident or capable. Are there intellectual goals there? We'll spend about 30 more seconds on intellectual goals. Also know that if we move through one of these too quickly, you can continue working on it as we move ahead or jump back to it. Please don't feel like you have to stick with us perfectly. I know sometimes the process of making goals and making art at the same time can be challenging. Awesome. I wanted to look next at financial goals. It was the next easiest one for me. I will also put a plug in here for those of you who do have big financial goals. Part of the New Year series is, I believe, saving for goals. Sophie can correct me if I'm wrong on that at the end, but definitely check out that one. It is put on by Canvas Credit Union and a really great workshop as well. But with this, I often think about like, how do I want to feel about money this year? Do I want to feel more confident, more secure, more empowered? So I put, debt with a down arrow. I want to pay down some debt. I was that person that didn't really fully understand how a credit card worked when I graduated, and I get to deal with that this year. That is on my vision board. It tends to be on my vision board every year. So it's a good financial goal for me. You can also think about like, what does financial peace or stability look like for me? For some people, it's I want X amount in my savings. For other people, it's I don't want debt. For some, it's I want to go out to dinner every night. So is there things you can put on your vision board to and capture that? You can think about, like what financial habits are supporting you right now? Are there money habits you want to shift or edit? What does enough mean for you? Is it, maybe I don't want a house because renting is enough. And I actually love that I just call my landlord every time something breaks. You could think about how does spending align with your values? Things like that. This could also be something where like maybe one of your social goals is to host more, but that also means buying more food for people. So does that go in your financial goal box or your social goal box? We're going to go ahead and, for the sake of time, just keep moving along. Physical goals. I purposely did not start with this one because I think folks often have physical goals. So hopefully this is easy. And if you don't have physical goals, that is completely fine too. But I often start with, like, how do I want my body to feel this year? Do I want it to feel strong? Do I want it to feel rested? For me, I want it to feel hydrated. You'll see there's some water on there. That is something I really struggle with. What movement makes me feel good and energized? I lately have been really into CrossFit. I love the CrossFit workouts because they're never longer than an hour. So I went ahead and put my CrossFit Gyms logo on there. If I was doing a paper board, I probably would have walked to the bill they give me every month and ripped it right off the bill. But think about what movement makes you feel good and energized. What physical habits help you feel best day to day? So that might be things like sleeping more, again, getting enough water, walking outside. What does rest and recovery look like? That can be another big one if we're constantly thinking about, physical goals can mean movement and can mean go, 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 but it also can mean getting some rest. I put the little logo in dark blue is an organization that I get to work a lot with and for, called Still I Run. So I put them in there because a lot of times when I'm with them, it's just easy and you're having fun and you're laughing and you're resting and you're recovering. You're not actually doing physical movement. I also so earlier on, we did our reflection question, like, what is one big goal or one stretch goal? For me this year, that is running a marathon. So this is where it shows up on my board, but that doesn't mean this is where it has to show up on your board. Think about where you can integrate your big goal and your stretch goal. Other things you might think about is, like, how can I listen to my body's cues more closely? What is a sustainable change I could make? You might loop back around to your environmental goals and think, what environments or spaces support your physical health? Do you sleep better when you don't have phones in the bedroom? Things like that. We'll go another 15 seconds. I know many of us are flipping through magazines quickly. So I appreciate the speed at which we are doing this workshop. In my perfect world, we'd have like 4 or 5 hours to do vision boards, but I know you all have busy lives. Awesome. We're going to talk about occupational goals next. This is another area people often have really big occupational goals. For me, I don't have a ton of occupational goals this year. It has been, and I work in a role that has been really under flux with funding and whatnot. And so I just put a wave because I want to ride the wave in my role. Like, I don't have goals or numbers I want to hit. I just want to ride the wave and make it through this weird time we're living through. But some of the things you might think about are, how do I want to feel in my work or daily role? What parts of your work energize you? What parts of your work feel misaligned? What does a fulfilling work-life balance look like? Vision boards can also be really productive when you incorporate what skills or strengths do you want to use? Are there healthier boundaries? Are there growth or learning opportunities that excite you professionally? What type of impact do you want to make at work? You'll notice that above the wave on mine, I left a big blank space. This is another area where I'm like, I might eventually have more goals. I might go back in and add to this in February or in March, but for now, it's simply to ride the wave. So we're going to take about 30 seconds. Hopefully you're starting to get some images laid down. If you're feeling more secure, you're welcome to start gluing. If you are doing the digital board, keep moving things around. Don't feel like everything has to be in the exact same spot. But we'll keep busting along. So spiritual goals is what I chose to work on next. As we get closer to the end of the goal, sometimes these buckets can get harder. I often personally don't feel very spiritual. So I was like, what do I want as my spiritual goals? Some of the questions that I reflect on when I think about spiritual goals for a vision board are, what helps me feel grounded? What helps me feel centered? It could be, what gives my life meaning or a sense of purpose right now. If you're part of a religious community, it could be, how do I want to engage with the religion or the community that is part of the religion? How do you want to connect more deeply? Are there values you want to live by more intentionally? Are there routines or rituals that support your well-being? So for me, I put some aerial on there. I do like aerial arts, and I was like, that helps me feel grounded. It helps me feel present. I want to get back into it. And then I also put some words. I talked about, creating more space for stillness, for reflection, practice being present. I wasn't exactly sure what picture would incorporate presence. So I was like, this is something I want words for. We're getting through it, friends. Perfect. Let's go ahead and talk about social goals. Like I said, I just kind of jumped around to whatever felt easy and quick for me. So social goals can be things like, how do I want to feel in my relationships this year? What connections energize you? What connections support you? Where do you want to invest more time or presence socially? Like, we know everyone is short on time. Where do you want to give your time to? What boundaries might you need to set to help you feel healthier in relationships? How do you want to show up for others? You can see I added a picture of myself with a sign that says, I think it says, happy people eat more locally or something like that. I knew socially I wanted to support my neighbors more and invest more in my local community. I added our tourism sign for Michigan, Pierre, Michigan, because I want to explore more of my state. Added some little runners because I want to do more with my running group. I want to say yes to more opportunities that expand my community. I want to host more frequently. So thinking about things like, what social habits support your well-being or also drain it? What things should you avoid? What social goals feel nourishing and aligned? This is also a great part of your board to often use your own personal pictures. I know I talked about cutting things out of magazines, but if you're doing a digital board, go back through your photo albums. If you're doing an on-paper board, are there things you've printed out throughout the year or extra school photos that I've gotten sent home? Add little pieces of you to it. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about emotional goals. I usually save this one for last because I think all goals are a little bit emotional, but really think about, like, how do you want to feel emotionally this year? What emotions do you want to experience more often? So you can see on my board, I put regulate. I want to feel more regulated. What situations or patterns tend to give you emotional energy or drain your emotional energy? I know that I am more regulated when I eat, sleep, and hydrate consistently. So I put little symbols for that. I also put a journal because that's something that really helps me feel calm, safe, supported. You can think about, like, what habits help you respond to stress or help you respond to challenges. Think about, where can you offer yourself some compassion or grace? Are there feelings you're ready to process or release? Who or what supports your emotional well-being? So this might be another place you add photos. Do you have kiddos you want on your board or pets? Are there emotional goals that feel nurturing or overwhelming? Whew, we made it, friends. We have a board. So you should, at this point, and I know that was quick, have some things cut out, some things pasted in place. If you did have everything, this is where I would recommend you start gluing and rearranging. So for my board, you can see I then went through and I just cleaned up a couple of things. I removed the green background because I didn't want it. I added some blank space. I tried to gel some of it together so it didn't feel so boxy. If you were doing this on paper, you might fill in spaces with scrapbook paper. You might color in certain places. You might change some of the hand lettering. If you are doing this digitally, you might resize images. You might move things so they fit in different places. After tonight's workshop, and as time allows, I encourage you to sit with your board. I encourage you to walk past it every day for the next 4 or 5 days and add things or rearrange things or talk to your partner or your kids or your best friend or your dog or whoever it is about your goals and see, does this feel right? Does it feel permanent? Is it something that I want on my board? So what now? We are making it to the end of the evening. Continue making your board, glue it down. Once that's finished, put it somewhere you can see it. So that could be your desk, it could be your nightstand. I've had years where my boards have been a little more personal and I wanted to see it, but I didn't want everyone to see it. So it went in my bedroom. I've had years where I was really proud and I wanted everyone to see it. So it went to my office. If you are doing it digitally, consider it as your phone background or your laptop background. You could even schedule an email to send to yourself at the beginning of every month. Use it as kind of a check-in when you're making decisions. So, do I want to invest in this huge piece of furniture? Does it support future me? Start small, pick some of the smaller steps. I tend to believe that when we start to get momentum, it continues. And so look at things that are really easy to check off. I know I've talked about water a lot tonight. Clearly it's top of mind for me, but having a glass of water when I wake up is not hard. That is a small win that I can take every day. Whereas, moving my whole house into my partner's whole house is a little bit bigger. So think about where you can start small and really start to build some of that momentum. And then remember that your board can evolve. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be messy. If it's June and you untape a piece or scratch out a piece, that is perfectly fine. It's really meant to be a reminder for you, a conversation between you and your future self and who you want to be. And so it can be imperfect and fun and perfect all at the same time. And I think with that, I don't think my last slide is on here, but thank you. It just says thank you, and it has a nice little reminder to register for the rest of the series. So alumni.colostate.edu, which I'm sure I'm stealing Sophie's thunder here. But thank you all for spending the evening with me, and thank you again to the CSU Alumni Association members and Campus Credit Union. And so you round us out great.
I love it. Thank you so much, Alexandra. This was wonderful. I don't know about you all, but I was making my board this entire time. So I'm pretty excited to show my results to Alexandra. One thing, if you feel comfortable, we would love to see your results. So you all did get a couple confirmation emails, a reminder email, you'll get a post-event email. Pick your one if you want to send it in to us, but we'd love to see it, whether that's immediately tonight, whether that's 6 months from now. We'd love to see what you create. And also no pressure to, again, as Alexandra said, if you want to keep it private, that is also okay. But if you feel like you want to share it, we'd love to see the creative lens. I did just want to echo Alexandra's words. We do have more vision board, or not more vision board. This is the vision boarding one. We do have more New Year series programs set around all sorts of different intentions. So take a look at your intentions that you set today, and in those emails or on our website, alumni.colostate.edu, see if any of our upcoming programs match those intentions. And if you would like to join us, we have a cooking class, a book club, we have a yoga practice. All of it will be operated here in the same format, so you'll be off camera for everything, but we'd love to have you in one of our upcoming programs. But if you missed anything tonight or you need to revisit anything, this will be posted immediately after the stream ends. Go ahead and just refresh this page and you can start from the beginning. But yes, that is the end. We are right on time here. In the interest of respecting your time, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Alexandra, again. I'm sure if we were on camera, people would be giving you a ton of applause, just like I am. So thank you all. And remember, if you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out to your friends at the CSU Alumni Association. Happy 2026. Hope to see you all soon. Have a great rest of your night and go Rams.
Go Rams!